Yeah, look, it's prayer water cocoa. You can jump up on it now, you don't need the pogo. Yeah, we diving off, bitch, we about to splash. All up in the deep end, but we ain't up on a boat though. We gon' stir it up some similar to cake batter. Headed to the top, no skipping steps and no ladder. These questions ain't some shit up on the street. Can't just walk around and put the faith inside myself. Got to work, stop the doubt. Trying to change the world, you better change yourself first. Living my life to the fullest, no round trip ticket on that hearse. I'm a star, so I burst. Entrepreneur, I got merch. Put your back against the wall and I can show you what you worth. We go in, we get deep. TLC the way we creep. Need a mop, need a top, cause where we spilling all the tea. This that prayer water, cocoa, keep me right in it weather. On my way to the promised land, can we get that together? Yeah, look, it's prayer water, cocoa. You can jump up on it now, you don't need the pogo. Yeah, we diving out, we about to splash. All of it is deep in, but we ain't up on the boat though. We gon' stir it up some similar to cake batter.
What it do, what it do, what it do? Turn up like the vegetable, we acting bad like we ain't got no home training. Yes, sir, it go down. Yeah, it's episode 2, season 2, baby. Prayer, water, and cocoa butter. Let's get it on. God is good. God is good. You know what I'm saying? Happy to be here. Feeling outstanding, feeling a lot better. Yeah, your boy got that vaccine. That Moderna was whipping my ass. Put its hands on me. I'm not gonna cap. It's crazy too because being a type 1 diabetic and somebody, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, I had COVID-19 and it wore me out, wore your boy out, laid me down for a good 2 weeks. And so I was really kind of apprehensive, you know what I'm saying, a little bit nervous. I was not planning on, I didn't really feel kind of like too strongly either way about the vaccine, but I definitely didn't want to be in that first stampede. You know what I'm saying? Let them old white folks and them hospital workers, let them go ahead and get it on first. Joe Biden and Kamala, let me see how y'all doing, after a few weeks. You're not going to get your boy Jalord to volunteer for that. Not going to be in that first crowd, but I had done my own research, which I think you always need to do. And it kind of talked to people and it kind of seen that, like, listen, it's recommended, that the vaccine is, gotten for people who are diabetics. So I did what I thought was the best thing to do. You try to leave it in prayer. And as this vaccine was whipping my ass, I was like, Lord, did you not hear me? I know I acted a fool for my birthday. I understand that. The Lord already told you, and I already talked about how I mentored those strippers who were at the birthday extravaganzas, so my heart is pure. I was there to observe and chaperone. That's all. First day I kind of take it, I didn't really feel nothing. So I was like, oh shit, we're good. Man, that second day came around, God, felt like I'd been in a fight. And it's crazy too, because the thing is that it still kind of affects me a little bit. I still kind of have like a little bit of like neck pain. It's nothing that's like, prevents me from doing anything, but it's there. You know what I'm saying? It's there. It's like a little crick in your neck, that you can't, really get rid of. But for me, listen, I don't worry about stuff like that, man. It was something that was recommended. I've heard a lot of people talking about how they don't want to do the vaccine. A lot of people, it was crazy. I was at a comedy show the other night and they like actually asked people, like who's got the vaccine? You would have thought, who they asked who has herpes, and this who has a protruding genital wart. Niggas were embarrassed. Nobody wanted to raise their hand or even acknowledge it. And it's crazy. And I definitely understand it with Black folks. Because like we said, Black people, if you look at things like the syphilis, experiment with, the Tuskegee experiment, different things like that, just throughout the course of history, Black people, unfortunately, many times have been used as the guinea pigs, for these type of, vaccinations or experiments or tests, so we're extremely wary, when it comes to stuff like that. And I completely understand it. You got to be aware, but it's so funny. Even though they vaccinated well over, I believe at this point, it's like 100 million people. They've been talking about how, there's different variants and different strains still with COVID-19. We ain't out the woods yet. We ain't out the young woods. You know what I'm saying? Your name ain't Hansel and my name damn sure ain't Gretel. But with these different variants and stuff like that, they've been really struggling to get everybody vaccinated. And you have a lot of people, not just Blacks, but they say one of the largest sectors of people who don't want to get vaccinated is white, evangelical, like adults. Primarily, from the South, but not just the South, just everywhere. Because the thing is that just like COVID-19, this issue has been made into a political issue. It's been turned political. Like all the COVID-19 foolishness and stuff like that, it was a health issue and people wanted to politicize it. I was reading this article about this one woman. She was like, listen, I don't believe in the vaccine. I believe that they put aborted baby fetuses in the vaccine. If it's for if it's for COVID-19 to take my life, then let the Lord's will be done. Hell no. No, ma'am. Hell no. Lord, I need you to back up on that one. Your boy Jaloid has some things to do. I'll never forget hearing about Steve Jobs and when he had unfortunately passed away. Genius of a man, but he had his own, kind of code of beliefs. And he did not, I remember he had like cancer. And they said the cancer actually could have been prevented if he had just, done the things that he needed to do, chemotherapy and taking the medicine, whatever it was that they'd instructed him to do. He wanted to take, a different approach. He tried to take a holistic approach and, do things on his own, and went to, like go see Tibetan monks and, do all these different things that basically they said he didn't have to die. He didn't have to lose his life. So there's risk in everything that we do every day. There's no promises for nothing. There's risk in everything. But I'm like, listen, if 100 million people done taken this goddamn vaccine, then, well, listen, it's going to be a lot of us wrong, but I'm feeling great. And that's the thing, for me, I want to be comfortable. It's not just about me. I'm tired of this shit too. God damn it. I'm sick, over it. But at the same time, I just think about how would I be affecting somebody? I don't want to put my parents in a situation. I don't want to put my care ones, my loved ones in a situation where, hey, due to my own negligence or due to my selfishness, hey, I'm fucking somebody else up or I'm affecting somebody's health. So for me, if I'm going to be going out and shaking and moving and, you know what I'm saying, out in these streets, like your boy Jaloid likes to do for the streets, your boy Jaloid, ha, no cap. But if I'm going to do that and be pursuing all the things that I'm trying to do and these goals and these dreams and these aspirations, listen, man, take your time, do what's best. Please do your own research and do whatever it is that you feel. But I'm telling you right now, for anybody that gets sick and you didn't take the vaccine and you asked your boy Jaloid, can I bring over some chicken noodle soup? I'm not going to be available. I'm not going to be available. But love, you know how we do around these parts. Let's get into the word.
Let's get into the word. Hey, let's get into the word. Whoa. Let's get into the word. Fuck what you heard. We give it to you straight. No chaser with no curse. Let's get into the word. Let's get into the word, man.
It's crazy. Kind of wild situation. We had some sad news kind of going on this past week. Kind of touched me, man, hearing about the overdose of rapper DMX. It was so funny. I was talking to one of my homeboys, one of my good friends, DJ Sean P. For me being from the South, DMX was like one of the first East Coast rappers that I really like appreciated. Like being in Houston, and like we weren't really fucking with like Jay-Z and Nas and shit like that. The first people that I remember making an impact where I was at, as far as like the East Coast was concerned, was like the Rough Riders. I remember like, the Screwed Up Click and the Swisher House and all them freestyling on their beats and different stuff like that, because it was just this like this difference. It was this hardness to the beats that I think people in like Houston really appreciated. And I also kind of connected to him because he always had like a somewhat of a spiritual, I would say, take, songs like Slippin' and, just other different things that he had. He just kind of had a different aesthetic. He had a different vibe. You know what I'm talking about? It was music and he made commercialized songs, but you felt every fucking thing that he had said. But this guy has struggled. He had kind of came out and talked about, how he had actually had a situation where he had, I believe it was either a friend or like a mentor, somebody that he had knew who I believe was older, who he was smoking weed, and the person had actually laced the blunt with crack cocaine. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful. I've smoked weed before, who am I playing with? Smoke weed before. Your boy. Jaloid, you got to do what you got to do to ease your mind. Ain't nothing wrong with a little flour. God put it here. Just like that mint and that basil that he put in the ground. It's a spice. A pungent spice, you know what I'm saying? But it's a spice. But you got to be careful. That's why I don't deal with everybody, and stuff like that. You can't take things from everybody. And it's just sad that it was an older person who did this. I don't believe that this one person set off the whole transaction for DMX, who is now 50 years old, being a drug addict. But obviously there was a person of, who was older, in his life who didn't care. Where were his parents? What was going on? Who was his mentors? Who was somebody who was in the circle that said, hey, listen, don't let him do that. Go fuck up your own life. You know, and it's sad because with all that success, you know, DMX has sold millions of records, you know, all of that success. I mean, he's had a rough situation. I know the guy has like 15 kids, 15 children. He almost died in 2016 when he overdosed. Had to cancel his tour. He'd had a comeback tour, I believe it was like 2017, 2018. He had to cancel that, you know, due to having being admitted to rehab, you know, twice in the past couple of years. And it's just amazing. You know, being out in a place like California, I've seen drugs, you know, I've never really kind of been into it, anything besides, you know, like smoking, you know, marijuana. You know, I've tried different things and tried too much. And to be perfectly honest, you know, you have to know who you are as a person. And obviously it helps to have a great family structure, but you have to value who you are. That drug should be peer pressure, man. It'd be bullshit. You know, the different things that I've kind of gotten in and done, you know, I was just like, Joel, why did you do this? You know, I already have a lot of energy. I don't really need to kind of get into that type of stuff. We do these things for other people. And it's disappointed me that I didn't have enough strength in myself to say no. You know, that's why I'm glad at this point, man, I don't do anything that it is that I don't want to do. You know, we're talking about like hardcore drugs. It's just an escape. That's all it is. It's just an escape from your reality and your problems. That guess what? Them bitches are right there when you come back. You know, I've had family members struggle with this. I've had friends, you know, and you really have to make a decision, you know, because you want to look at people. I see all the support and all the people coming from DMX, but it's hard. You know, you want to support somebody like that, and I wish him the best. You know, I've said my prayers, and I hope he makes a full recovery. But it's hard to come out of that, man. You know, I've had friends who have been involved. You know, and some of these friends I've had to leave. I had a guy, you know, that I knew, that I used to work with. And, you know, I try not to judge people, but he was a drug addict. And you would have never known it. You know, that's the thing that's crazy about out here. You have so many functioning addicts. This was a guy I work with. You know what I'm saying? Decent looking dude, had all the talent in the world, but just was fucking up everything in his life, losing jobs, you know, fucking up relationships. Dude actually went to jail. I lost touch with him before he had went to jail. But he had went to jail and was in jail for like a year and a half. And it called me when he got out of jail. I had deleted his phone number because I'd really kind of separated myself from him before he had even done that. You know, I'd seen that he didn't want to make any changes with his life, and I just wasn't a part of what it was that he had going on. That wasn't a priority to me, to be running around with you if you don't care about yourself. You know, if I care about you more than you even care about your goddamn self. You know, when the dude got out of jail, I didn't even really want anything to do with him. He had called my phone number and he had asked me, could he stay? He didn't have anywhere to stay. He was homeless. Dude was literally in tears. And it's hard, you know, to hear another man cry. You know, that was just kind of wild for me. That's always affected me, you know, to see, like they say, to see a man cry. You know, so to hear him like in tears, you know, crying, you know, against my better judgment, you know, I picked him up and I think it was like a Friday, you know, and he told me he needed a place to stay. I was like, listen, man, you know, I gave him 2 days. I gave him basically the weekend. You know, I gave him basically the weekend and I really didn't bother him. You know what I'm saying? I've never really spent any real time in jail. I've done 2 days and that was more than enough for me. You know, but I really just kind of observed him because I remember the guy before he had went to jail, you know, let him gave him food, chill out, you know, here's the TV, the internet, the Wi-Fi, go to town. But I really just observed to see if he had made any changes in his life. And it was very clear to me that he hadn't. You know, talking about the same bullshit, wanting to argue, debate over politics. I'm like, nigga, you need to be trying to find housing. You need to be trying to find a job. You need to be trying to file for unemployment. And it showed me that his mindset had not changed. But still, man, I gave the dude some money, gave him a little bit of cash, gave him some jeans, some extra clothes I had, a book bag. You know, take care of yourself. Because the thing that I realized is that, guess what? I wouldn't even have picked up the phone if I typically don't answer the phone when I see numbers that I don't recognize. I wouldn't even have picked up the phone. So I truly believe that God had put it on my heart to pick up the phone. But I knew in my heart that was it. And I told him, I was like, man, take care of yourself. You know, because I knew this might be the last time that I really dealt with him. Sure enough, man, it was like he would kind of call me, but, you know, or text and not really be talking about nothing. And I really wouldn't pick up the phone. I wouldn't really answer it because you're not talking about anything different. You're not trying to make any changes in your life. And I'm focused on a different path. And sometimes you got to make those tough choices and those tough decisions. You know, sometimes the best way for somebody to grow is when you leave them alone. Because what we do a lot of times without even realizing is that we enable people. We enable people when they're doing that foolish behavior and we keep coming around and doing that, we're enabling you. It's all good. It's okay. That's not a part of my life. So the best way that I can help you is to let you get your shit together on your own. But the dude that called me a little while ago, it was like 4 or 5 months, you know, after staying with me, you know, it told me he had been clean and stuff like that, but it hit me up talking some bullshit. Hey, Jaloid, you know, dude, what's going on? Hey, can I come by your place? You know, I need to stay at your place. No reason, no this, that, nothing's going on. And it just let me know after 5 months of being free and having all of these opportunities right now, because there's so many ways to get money. Food banks, this, housing. He had actually had housing in a halfway house. What are you doing? Why do you now need to come over to my place and stay over again? It hurt a little bit to know that, guess what? You don't want to do better for yourself. But I got to leave you alone, big dog. I got to leave you alone because that's not part of my path. You know, the best thing I can do is wish the best for you. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, keep you in my thoughts, my wishes, and my prayers. You know, but listen, we wish the best, you know, for DMX or anybody that's struggling with any type of problems as far as substance abuse and addiction. It's one of the biggest problems that we have, you know, today in society. You know, it's crazy. I've been watching this George Floyd trial. Oh, yeah. That's still going on for anybody that thought that Black Lives Matter ended when basketball season started. Yeah, we still in the fight. We still on the grind. But it's been crazy how the defense has tried to basically bring up George Floyd's drug history and his past. You know, he was addicted to opioids and, you know, he had some problems with drug use in his past. It's amazing because I was so confused when I started kind of hearing about this because I was like, I didn't realize that George Floyd was on trial. My bad. Excuse me. I'm the dumb one. I thought this cop, this former cop, I thought Derek Chauvin was the one that was on trial. And that's how they try to do. You know, especially with people of color, it's very interesting to me. George Floyd was addicted to opioids, which is something that President Donald Trump championed for people who are addicted to opioid addiction and all of these things and all these rights and these regulations. See, the problem is that we so want to not make things about color, but they always are about color. As far as Black people who were concerned in the ghettos and the hoods, what about the people who would use crack cocaine, methamphetamines, all of these different things? You know the reasons these people use these drugs and they did not use opioids? It's because they couldn't afford it. They didn't have the access to go get the prescriptions and have a doctor who would do these things. So they had to process things the certain way that they felt that they knew how and what was available to them. I'm not condoning anybody using crack cocaine. I'm just stating a fact. And see, we don't want to have empathy. We don't want to acknowledge things like that. So it's amazing to me when a person of color seems to be struggling with some type of drug addiction or stuff like that. We want to criminalize. We want to demonize the person and not have any empathy. You literally have the defense attorney for this guy over here bringing up saying that George Floyd died due to his drug use. Not the almost 9 minutes that this cop had his knee. These several officers had their knee and this man was saying that I cannot breathe. Not I can't breathe, nigga, because I chewed it up. Because I just smoked some meth or I just smoked some rocks. I can't breathe because your fucking knee is on my neck. Over here on Prayer, Water, and Cocoa Butter, we're going to call it what it is, baby. We're going to call a spade a spade. So I'm loving it. In the defense, he's been getting his ass whipped every fucking day. And I love it. Keep whipping his ass. Because we don't want to leave nothing due to chance. I'd seen they've had some phenomenal witnesses. The female EMT who had actually spoken about what she had seen and how she had kind of like cursed out the cop. There was another gentleman who was an observer. He was a phenomenal witness. This Black guy who had kind of talked about it. They kind of try to paint him out, you know, as the stereotypical angry Black man. But he just kind of professed about what it was that he saw. But this is the process, unfortunately, that we have to go through. In my opinion, I don't even understand why the guy's on trial. You know, I think we need to do like they used to do, like, you know, back in the biblical days. Eye for an eye. Save the taxpayers their money. Send his dumb ass to jail. Some of these cases don't even need to be tried. They don't. Why are we wasting time and why are we wasting money? You know, so I'm clearly observing. I hope everybody is still paying attention. The fight is not over. And this is for all people. This isn't just about people of color. This is about police abuse. I keep saying the police seem to have their motherfucking jobs confused about what they're here for. The police are supposed to be public servants, peace officers. They're supposed to be helping people. And it seems like they want to be some type of Gestapo or some type of force. Your main job as a police or a peace officer is supposed to be helping people. This guy clearly needed help. He needed empathy. There were 8 people there who had him under control. Why he did not even get the opportunity to make it to jail alive, to face whatever charges you wanted to charge him with, is a travesty and nothing more than murder. And we got to call it what it is. But guys, man, I got to give you a big thank you. Got to thank you so much, man. We had a great episode. Last episode, we getting it kicked off, baby. We ain't slowing down. We going straight in, man. It's Prayer Water and Cocoa Butter, man. It is season 2, episode 2. Please follow us at anchor.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We do both audio and video. Subscribing to the show really, really kind of helps us out and allows us to keep continuing to try to bring you the best content that we can possibly do. But look, we got a great edition of our segment, All Up in Your Business, but Respectfully. All Up in Your Business, but Respectfully. Yeah, man, we have comedian Brooke Van Poppelen, actress, podcast host, entrepreneur, hosted and started her own podcast network. So we had a phenomenal conversation. And also she appreciated a good damn tequila on the rocks. You know what I'm talking about? Brooke, your girl. And you guys are going to love this edition of All Up in Your Business, but Respectfully. But listen, man, stay up. Don't ever stay down. And don't let nobody out here tell you what it is that you can and can't do. This is your life. This is your world. Hey, look, it's Prayer Water and Cocoa Butter, baby. It go down. It's another episode of Prayer Water and Cocoa Butter, baby. And we got another phenomenal guest. Another episode of our segment, or another edition of our segment, All Up in Your Business, but Respectfully. All up in your business, but respectfully.
But respectfully.
But respectfully. Listen, I don't want no problems. I don't want no problems. She is a comic, a writer, TV podcast host, host of the Side Work podcast, and creator of the One Star Podcast Network. You've seen her on Hack My Life. You've probably seen her running around Rochester, Michigan. We got your girl, Brooke Van Poppelen, over here on Prayer Water and Cocoa Butter. Brooke, it's a pleasure. How are you doing?
Oh, it's good to see you, Lloyd. It's Poppelen. It's Poppelen and Lachlan over here, as we say.
Getting it happening, making it happen. No, I've seen you in the club. I know it is Poppelen and Lachlan.
No. Oh my God. The club. Remember that?
I remember those days. It's crazy. That is actually where me and Brooke first met, man. I was actually bartending at this spot in an area in LA by the name of Glendale. A lot of you know it who smoke hookah. But it was a very cool little spot. And I'd actually met Brooke there one night, and we got into a phenomenal conversation. We had actually linked up, and I had an opportunity to do her great podcast.
I love that episode so much.
It was so fun. It was a great time.
It was a great time.
I'm gonna let our listeners know. Listen, yesterday we were trying to get together yesterday, and it was so funny. Brooke had hit me up. Brooke was like, Jaloid, how are you? Pleasure. By the way, is this video and audio? And I said, yeah, it is. Brooke was like, okay, here's the deal. It's been a day. I was like, girl, take your time. Your time.
I was like, I have to cover the roots. The gray was popping. I was like super unshowered. I was like, I can't. The video is a killer in quarantine because there's a chance I'm on like day 4 of not washing myself. So,
He's like, Jaloy, let's do this another time.
I was like, I'm sorry. I got to go get hosed down in the back.
Right, exactly. Jaloy, we like that Brooke Van Poppelen girl, but we could smell her through the tube.
So
what was going on? Why didn't you tell her it was video and audio? Why didn't you tell her that?
Listen, things are slipping through the cracks with me right now. I know you're getting lined up to get a shot, and I have my second one.
Vaccine,
yes, I have my second one next week.
Okay,
and my side effect for sure was brain fog and really tired. Real tired.
Brooke. Real talk, because it's funny you bring that up. I'd kind of been talking. I'm supposed to be getting the vaccine. I believe it's Moderna for your boy.
Nice.
Okay. I believe it's Moderna for your boy. So 2 parts, and I had heard my dad had got it. He said he felt nothing.
Yes.
But I'd had some other people that were like, dude, what the,
Right.
fuck. I was woozy as a bitch. I was woozy as a bitch, Jaloid. And so I'm just like, what do you know what it matters, or what is it random?
I know, and like we keep joking. We're like, it's just nonstop hot vax goss,
right,
And
exactly, right.
That's all we gossip about. Listen, there's no rhyme or reason. I think it's some people can have a symptom after the first shot and be good after the second, or then that scenario flips. The one they tell you to expect is to feel your immune system going crazier when you get the second injection, which when you get a fever and when you get chills, that means your immune system's working. So that's your body's way of saying, I'm fighting for you, And so
I don't know. See, Brooke, I need to see though. I'm a diabetic.
I know, but didn't you catch? I was listening to your podcast.
I did.
I had
caught
COVID. You got the cocoa.
But I had the cocoa, and it wasn't the butter. It wasn't the butter, bro.
No,
man.
I think what's so crazy about COVID, it's kind of like a fucking horror monster in the sense that like it attacks you where you're weak. Yes. It's like whatever you're, like for some people, because I have a little bit of chronic fatigue syndrome because I got mono when I was 38 years old, and it's just, it flares up.
What is chronic fatigue syndrome?
It's like, okay, so I still have the Epstein-Barr virus, and some people I'm not super duper woo-woo about it, but
what is that?
The Epstein-Barr virus is what causes mono.
Okay.
Right. Gotcha. So I never got it when I was a kid or a teenagers. That's the typical time in life that you get it. Most people have this virus in their body. It never wakes up. It never causes them trouble. Gotcha. I had just gotten repeatedly sick. My immune system was just crashing when I moved to Los Angeles. I was just like allergic to everything. And then I got like basically somebody made a shit sandwich, more or less. There's no nice way to put it.
Right.
Someone made a sandwich with a shitty hand and I ate it. And I had like a third world, like it's called Enterobacter, like bacterial infection that I didn't know about for 3 months. I was like falling apart, finally got an answer. But basically when you're really, really sick, the what's it called, Epstein-Barr virus, like woke up. So then on top of all that shit, I had mono for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it's really hard to fully get rid of the virus. Yeah, like when you are overworked, overstressed, maybe have a little cold, it's really opportunistic and it'll flare back up. And that's what chronic fatigue syndrome is low-grade fever, kind of needing to sleep more, achy, and it'll be little episodes where I have flare-ups. So for me, getting the little bit of the COVID in the vaccine, for me, I was like, and seen. About 4 hours after getting it, I went to sleep for 7 straight hours.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be really different for you, in the sense that your body's already going to recognize it and can mount like a really fast and quick fight with the vaccine. So nobody needs to be getting this anymore. This is ridiculous.
I don't have no time for this foolishness. I don't have no time for this foolishness. No. I've actually had an opportunity to have you on my show, That Young Comedy Show, where you did a fantastic job. Tell me about your background a little bit. Saw that you were from Michigan. How you kind of got into comedy.
I just always really, really admired a lot of like sketch comedy. When I was young, grew up on like Kids in the Hall was more my speed than Saturday Night Live. Although I love that, like that mid 80s run, with like Phil Hartman and that crew.
I was a huge Phil Hartman fan.
Oh my God. He's
huge Phil Hartman fan.
Just, I think sometimes my personality too is like, I'm attracted to the guy who he played it pretty straight and was really convincing.
Yes.
But then when he would go off the rails with his characters, I just was like, God, this guy can do anything. Yeah. Stand-up comedy was never the draw, but I think because I discovered I was a writer, like I took oral speech or something like that, classes, and I would make them very funny and deliver them funny. My speeches where I'm like, well, you can either write a speech or you can fucking like, you know, fucking blow the roof off the place. And I think I quickly was like, oh, there's something going on here. Like I make people laugh. But you know, like when you're from Michigan and, you know, my dad's a cop, my mom's a nurse, nobody's creative.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just suddenly like put two and two together that this is a viable option.
Right.
You know, so I went every route other than comedy for a long time.
You avoided it. So did you have it? Did you have an interest in it? And you just kind of, hey, this isn't really part of something that I've kind of seen, part of the family tree, and kind of pushed it to the side a little bit?
Yeah. Like I just didn't, there was nowhere where I saw permission or anyone doing it. I'd never seen anything live that was funny. So like, because, you know, you might go see something locally and say like, oh, how could I get involved in this? Like, there's nothing. It's the fucking burbs outside of Detroit. There's like one comedy club. I'd never even been to, you know, my parents didn't do anything like that. So yeah, it was very much one of my best friends in high school who is actually on a Nickelodeon show right now. Like she just was the comedy nerd. Like there was no stopping her. We got along so great. I was like, wow, she's just so brazen and goes after everything. And went to college and got a theater degree. And I literally thought you had to have a theater degree to be able to then move into the comedic arts. Right. Exactly. You know, and so I was like, well, I already blew it. I have like this useless couple of years working toward advertising. It just really was like the minute I heard you could take like classes at Improv Olympic in Chicago, I just shut everything down in Michigan. I just was like, bye, I'm moving there to literally take my first class. Wow. Moved with a friend who I was like, you want to get the fuck out of Michigan? She's like, yeah, cool, let's go. We threw stuff into a truck a month later. And so then I would say that's where it started. But it and I hadn't even seen live stand-up until I was 23, maybe. Yeah. Wow. And it really bugged me because it was just all dudes and like only a few of them were really good. And so I kept attending the open mics to spitefully watch them. And I started to realize, and I've said this a few times, where I was like, I'm not going to be the best, but there's no way I'm going to be the worst. Absolutely. Because some of these guys are fucking pathetic. And so, I kind of got a fire in my belly to like also just representation. There were no women on that stage. Maybe 60 or 70 comedians would show up for it. Wow. And the house was packed. So your debut was like a real fucking show. It was no joke. So that's a place of legend, you know? Okay. What was this place called, bro? It was called the Lion's Den in Chicago. Okay. I've heard of it. Yeah. I've heard of the Lion's Den. I'm trying to think like your Kyle Kinane, TJ Miller, Kumail Nanjiani, like that Hannibal. I started with Hannibal. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So like, that's my old crew that I ran with. How do you look upon those days now as far as like your foundation? I can't I knew I was going to do something. And that is just sort of like when I look back, like it's such a loaded thing to talk about, but I've just made knee-jerk decisions and figured it out. Once I get there, I go. I was about to say, you didn't have no prep. No. Like you were literally the one that asked another friend, like, hey, do you want to go do this? Like you didn't even really have any knowledge or prep. No, I just was like, I probably should have a roommate. It'd be nice to know somebody in Chicago, you know, we'll see. And when I look back on everything, because I mean, and here's a fun little hint for anyone. Holla at your boy. Yeah, right. Most people in LA and New York City are from a family that can get them places. They're 100% set up in some way or another. I'm not saying this to disparage. They're very, because a lot of them are very good, but the truth is they never had to pay their rent. They never had to have a job while they pursued comedy. They got to just live, breathe, and do comedy only and never have one of our silly pedestrian worries. Like, how do I pay this bill? But at the end of the day, there is a lot of pride in being like, there was literally no support, no connection.
Yeah.
I knew nobody.
Yes.
So sometimes what
And
I
you
have
made a way.
accomplished, I made a way. But I've sacrificed, I think, a lot of comforts in my life to get to a point where finally, you know, I'm like, have I wasted my chance to have like a family and a child and like,
exactly.
I act like a big kid because this life is really fun. I fucking love it. And, you know, I talk a lot about service industry, obviously, because I met you, bartending. The great thing too is while you're pursuing the other thing, working in the service industry is such a flexible profession that can support you while you do your other things. I mean, I was famously a breakfast and lunch server, so I could perform at night, but it paid all my bills. Like, I was like, I know this isn't the cool shift. And I'm the weird server nobody knows because I never work nights. And it also enables you to move wherever you want. That's the coolest thing is comedy and service industry is like, where do I want to live now? Because I can go there. I can get a restaurant job and I can start doing, shows. It is so popular. It was not popular when I started. It was getting popular with like a second wave of like a comedy boom in 2002 and 2003. That's when I started.
Gotcha.
People were like, you do what now? You know, they just really, it was like, you just go see the old road dogs at all the clubs from the 80s boom who were still, you know, kind of touring. People are always like, who was your favorite? I'm like, I did not watch a lot of stand-up. I really didn't. And my favorite special of all time that I would watch over and over and over again and still do is Sinbad. Sinbad special on Comedy Central.
Hey, Sinbad was great. I had to actually go back and watch.
Hilarious.
He's great. And he was really fairly clean.
Yes, he worked very clean.
He was pretty clean.
The like old Brian Regan makes me laugh. He's a completely clean comedian. You know, I didn't really like, it's so funny because it's like the things I like are not what I do. I'm you know, pretty honest with my thoughts and my opinions. There's no hiding behind like a cutesy little character who's like, oopsies, did I just say that? I'm a lady comedian. I felt really lucky because in Chicago, everybody was simultaneously doing like theater.
Gotcha.
Like we were all in plays. We all did improv Olympics. So we were all an improv team and we all had sketch teams. Yeah. So I wrote and performed sketch comedy. I was on 2 improv teams. I was in a few local small theater company plays, and then I was doing stand-ups. So I went from no art and no opportunity in my life to being every day. So when it's a really long answer to look back at that time. I'm just like, who was that girl? That was magical.
Wow.
That grind, like that hustle for those years in Chicago was the education I'd always wanted.
How did you eventually find your voice as far as like your niche, your lane? Not a lot of female comedians out there. You obviously didn't have a lot of experience, period, until you just kind of jumped in head first.
This is so funny. This is the weirdest thing. So for some fucking weird reason, Southwest Airlines had a route from Midway, Chicago Airport to Islip, Long Island for $39 each way.
Wow.
So like all in with your taxes, less than 100 round trip to go to New York City. So I had a few friends who'd moved there and I just started going like maybe every 4 to 6 weeks. I would go do a handful of days in New York, book shows, pretend I was local. Like I got booked at Caroline's on Broadway. Yeah. It was a packed audience. I crushed because I had been working clubs regularly in Chicago. So I walked into New York just like my shit couldn't stink because I was like, I'm a professional, move over.
Right. Yeah. Turn up.
Right the way only a 27-year-old, arrogant 27-year-old could be.
Right. Exactly.
But those tapes got me into my first round of comedy festivals. Then by the time I came to New York and actually moved there, everyone knew me because I'd been visiting and doing so many shows. And then my good friend, Baron Vaughn, had this really great show that he just hated hosting. He fucking hated hosting it. He wanted it. He wanted his name on it. And then was like, I hate hosting. And he made me host it so that he could just come do guest sets on his own show.
Nice.
But because everyone loved Baron, And he was like really established and knew everyone. He had some of the best alts and established comedians dropping by to just do the free sets because it was a good show. And as the host, I met everybody.
Wow.
And then because I was a good host and was funny, they were all like, she's funny. And then I just started getting booked like crazy in New York.
Where do you actually gather your material from?
I was waiting tables for so much of it. And the people you wait on in New York City, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, I could do an hour about the vegan restaurant I worked at on the Upper East Side.
I could.
Okay. Every fucking
I already know. I could only imagine. My God.
You cannot. Literally, I would be.
Oh man.
Because we had like a smoothie and a juice bar at the front, of course, and the restaurant in the back, and it was Celebrity Haven. So it's like I would be like Common would come in to get a smoothie, right?
Okay.
And I'd be like trying to have a fun, casual conversation because I'm like crushing hard on Common and like, oh, your chocolate protein smoothie's almost done, you know, blah, 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 trying to be this cool waitress, trying to just have that next level connection. And then a shrieking shrew of like, they like drove in from Long Island to have a plate of steamed spinach. And I have asked for extra dressing for 5 minutes now. And someone coming up and like putting their claw on your arm, like, I asked for more dressing, you know, and you're like, I'm trying to talk to Common. And it's just like, was this terrible epicenter of Long Island, just people that I'm like, oh my God, like, because I'm Midwestern. I've never been around generational money and privilege like that, where every girl
that's expected. They're looking at you like, what's the problem?
Oh, I'm not a waitress, Jaloid. I was a problem solver, a housekeeper, a servant. You just could not believe.
Those are the things that, as I was saying earlier, that enrich. First of all, it helps you to have an understanding of how to be responsible.
Yes.
You know, you got a lot of people that come out here and they're upset that they're not a star in 3 months.
Yeah.
Like this shit, it's not really like that. You got to put the motherfucking time in. And so, hey, for some people, it may happen like that. But if it doesn't, what are you going to do? You have to be living your fucking life. Mm-hmm. And living your life allows you to have experiences and things to actually fucking talk about, as opposed to some people who just want to get up there and do that shock value bullshit that they've seen or that they think is going to go, or these male comedians who you've been talking about who just want to do what they think they've seen people do. See, and that's the difference.
There's no kernel of truth. I'm sitting here going like, I do not see anything about this that rings truthful.
That is why people get it fucked up, Brooke, because like I've said, I'm not a person that is like, I'm not going to condone, but truth is like, if you say something funny that's bad or whatever, but people can say like, man, I can tell that motherfucker knows what he's talking about it's a difference.
There's like an owning it. There's a story around it. There's a human attached to it where we're nuanced people, right? Just saying, right. Cause I think the best way to put it is like, you know, when everyone's like, is there such a thing as a funny rape joke?
See, that's a great question. Is there such a thing as a funny rape joke? Because in my personal opinion, I feel that I've heard some, both from men and women. But what would you say to that?
I think like, okay, so first I'd like to say that like, I wish we, you know, just comedians in general, it's like the way people are so horny for guns. What is it with comedians? Just, they're like, I gotta
say it.
I gotta make the funny. I gotta make the funny about the rape. You know, I gotta make the funny about the abortion. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I'm attracted to it. I'm like a moth to lamplight. I gotta. Where it's just like, I have to like what?
So true.
What is this?
Yes.
I understand that comedians love.
Great question.
They love the taboo.
Right.
But again, when
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that has a lot to do with it.
It is. And a lot of comedians have to test boundaries before they figure out what lands and what's right.
Very true.
But, so like we were saying, you know, when we laugh at someone who's not funny, it's because we can't see the kernel of truth in there. And you're just kind of like, it's not that premise wasn't funny. I just don't believe you, you know?
Correct.
And so my biggest takeaway is like, I think a rape joke could be funny if the owner of the joke was speaking on behalf of their personal experience and decided to have ownership of it. Okay. Not saying like, that this should be funny for everybody who's on the, you know, receiving end of sexual assault, because absolutely not. Exactly. But it's like if it happened to someone, or it's just like, there's got to be a story around it for me, because, and also like, why every time, like the joke is at the expense of people their lives have been ruined. Right. Sexual assault. And if that's never happened to you, like, fuck you. Right. Right. There? Like, exactly. Where I'm also like, hey, everyone, if we're going to tell rape jokes, could they like, maybe like, could we flip the script a little bit and just start to mock rapists? Why is the punchline people who've been raped? That is fucked up.
The victim.
Like, why are we not just constantly mocking rapists?
I agree with you.
It's just so weird. So
I agree with you. I feel that comedy is objective. You know, that's your space. A lot of people may not like the shit I do. A lot of people may love the shit that you do. But I'm going to tell you one thing, just like the fuck you say, if I'm not fucking with your message, I'm going to have a conversation. It ain't even really going to be a long conversation. I'm just not going to book you again, because I can't support that and enable that for me if you don't have a purpose or a message. The brilliant thing about comedy is being able to tell some truth and impact somebody. Have them think about it from a different perspective. I don't think that anything is off of bounds for anybody. White people can talk about black people. Black people should be able to talk about white people. But how are you doing it? What is the conversation we're having, and what is your intent and your purpose? I think that matters.
It's people I used to run around with when it was more like when the lines weren't so drawn between the alternative and the club scene in New York. Now it's just like the alt scene is way over here deep into Brooklyn, and the club scene has taken over all the clubs, and they are basically like, some of them stormed the fucking Capitol, Lloyd. They've turned into these like men's rights, white supremacists. There's some dark shit happening with the alt-right comedy scene in New York right now.
The alt-right comedy scene. What in the heck? That shit crazy.
They don't call it. I remember when we just had alt comedy, you know, now it's alt-right. And it's because
I mean, you got a lot of people that feel that they're being minimalized. You got a lot of white people that want to claim that, hey, you know, they're being pushed out and they're becoming the minority. And, you know, some people choose to express that in a way that is intelligent.
Right.
And like I said, look, I am the biggest lover of comedy. I got into comedy, Brooke, because like me and you were talking about, I like to laugh. Right. You liked it. You had friends that did it. Like, I like to laugh. So I like to laugh at things, but nigga, that shit gotta be funny. Like, if it's not funny, I can't help you. And it's like, even if it's a black person going up there and just doing a rant, that's not funny. Right. If you go up there and you make a joke and talk about your feelings in a way that it's like, man, that's hilarious. I can mess with that. You know, but some of these people trying to disguise themselves as anything other than just an insecure racist, I'm gonna pull your card. I'm gonna pull your card.
You're on blast. And everyone thinks that being on blast and having a repercussion being met with, I think your comedy's stupid, that's not being canceled. That's not censorship.
Correct.
That's the thing that comedians, where I wish they would step up and stop being such shitbags about thinking that just because they aren't getting away with their dumb racist shit, that means censorship, you know, that their First Amendment is being you know, free speech is being challenged. It's like, no, it's just
you're
that
trash.
we're to say as an audience, you suck. You're trash.
You're trash, and I'm gonna tell you how I know you're trash.
You get to say it wherever you want, but get the fuck out of my club. It's not censorship. I don't like it. Just go.
It's just like Dave Chappelle in some of the things, and I think Dave is a great comedian, one of the best of all time. I don't love everybody and every single thing that they've ever said or done, but I'm gonna tell you that I think one of the differences that Dave Chappelle has, he's always able to explain himself in what he was thinking. You can get mad at Dave. Hey, I didn't like what you said in Sticks and Stones about. He's always able to have a conversation about where he was coming from, why he said what he said, and what his purpose and what his intent was. And not only that, he actually explains it within the joke. He don't just say the joke and then somebody comes at him later like, man, that shit you said in the special. He's explaining the joke as he's saying the joke. So the thing is that the difference is that, number one, it's funny. Number two, and as Dave, I heard him talking about a transgender joke. And he was like, he had a conversation with the person.
Right.
Like, that is the difference. Right.
I've had jokes that have absolutely left my canon of material because someone's approached me, you know, and it was a total blind spot on my part. I remember being approached and having a fucking, like, not in front of them, but a child, like later while I was walking home from the show, the ego of the comedian, right? Like, who does this audience member think they are walking up to me to tell me that that wasn't funny because A, B, and C, I can say whatever I fucking, and like, I basically let myself have a comedy temper tantrum.
I didn't have a couple. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And I'll tell you what, now someone may or may not agree if this was terribly offensive, but I, you know, in Brooklyn, love like this, there's this area, it's truly diverse. The crowd is everybody. So doing well in a room like that means a lot, you know. Absolutely. It really means a lot. And there was probably, I want to say, like a little one of everybody on the show. That
a little bit of everybody.
Like some gay representation. We had like, you know, Latinx. We had a few black, so on and so forth. Right. And everybody just destruction city. I mean, it was such a good night. And I also killed. Awesome. I was so like, this is amazing. And I felt like everyone was venting about the things that make Brooklyn crazy. I guess it's a joke I've been working out, and I'm trying to remember like what the point of it was. But I absolutely had a blind spot about how just like singling out and describing Asian people on the train, you know, like that's where I got the pushback, because I wasn't like, it wasn't something I was making up. So in my mind, I was trying to describe the fact that I ride the train, and where I get on, I live between the two Chinatowns. It's it's the Brooklyn Chinatown and the Manhattan Chinatown. And I was trying to make a joke more so about Chinatown, if that makes sense. Like one of it was like, oh, you can tell like who's getting off at the, like who got on at the Brooklyn Chinatown. Like it's the old woman with the 15 bags of groceries. And she just sat down on a crate she brought and then took out a knife and opened a durian and started eating it on the train, you know?
Got you.
And then I think I did something like she's a Chinatown Asian lady or something like that, versus you can tell like the tech bros going uptown. I can look back on that now. And then an Asian girl came up to me at the end of the show, and I was like sitting there with friends. We're all and she leans in, and I'm getting ready for a compliment.
No. I said sugar on the rim. Bring the margarita back. Sugar on the rim. Woo.
I'm just sitting there ready to, you know, receive the compliment of all.
Have a good time, right? Exactly. Right.
And she's like, "You're really offensive and not funny." And I was like, what? And like said that in front of all my friends.
Right.
She's like, it's really shitty how you talked about Asian people that way, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I tried to get into a conversation, but like it was really hard. I
Yeah.
didn't know A, that I was being offensive.
Right.
B, you're still in that attitude where you're like, you just walked up to the comedian's table. Who do you think
Right.
you are? So then there was
Right.
definitely some attitude and ego.
Right.
But I was like, hey, well, and we went around, like, I wouldn't say that I was wrong because I was like, well, I want to think about it. I was like, but I'm like, I'm listening to you, and I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. And we got to that point, but I like, not that she made me sign a contract saying I was never going to do the joke again, but like, I just was not going to let her have it, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Listen. Look, like you say about ego, Brooke.
Right.
Okay, if anybody understands, your boy Jaloid understands. Okay, look, this is a hard business that we do, and just like you say, coming from a perspective as being one of the only.
Right.
Now you're actually getting to a point where you're being received.
Yes.
You're doing a show in a place like New York, which is like LA. That's like going to, some diverse spot out here and fucking killing. That everybody knows. I understand. This is your own personal craft, your writings, your art. You felt that, hey, I'm trying to be diverse and be acceptable. So when somebody says something like that, as opposed to immediately looking at, obviously, you're around friends and stuff like that, it's like, bitch, I may think about it, but that's going to be at home, bitch. Okay, that's going to be at home. All right, I got to back up off it for it. So I completely understand that initial reaction, indeed.
Oh, I was not, who is overly gracious about being criticized and checked,
Correct.
In the moment either.
Correct.
Right. And so when I really thought about it, I was like, well, not only is it offensive and I offended someone, this isn't even a strong joke. And I let it go.
Brooke, tell me about Hack My Life. Yeah, I did some research on that.
Super fun. If you've got your HBO Max.
Tell me about that. What was going on? What was the premise of the show, and how did you get that opportunity?
Okay, so this show makes all the sense now that we've been in a year of pandemic. It was maybe a little ahead of its time when we did it, but it's just all these crazy life hacks where my co-host and I were kind of like myth busting all this crazy, how people love to put on the internet that these like life hack, do blah, blah, blah. And so they, like, our producers would take them off the internet, recreate them. We'd try them out and tell you in real life if they work or not, lot of explosions, a lot of fuckery,
You can use pancake syrup to start your car, right? Let's try it out. Let's check it out.
Sort of shit, of course. But
man,
that was super fun. And basically they started doing more seasons in Los Angeles, and I'd been looking for my opportunity for a job. I was like, if this job will take me and give me my relocation fee instead of flying me out multiple times and putting me up in a hotel, it's like, will you just give me money to move my ass across the country? And they did.
That's awesome.
The show went away. So then I walked away from my agency because I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then got dumped by my management. And then, but there was something weird and shady that went down with that too, where there was some lies happening. Anyway, so it sucked. I mean, there's no happy ending. The happy ending is that I was like, okay, I'm out on my ass. There went that money. I bought a house, and you're like, okay, well, this home is possible when I have a paycheck that I can count on. And then, and so it was just like 2019 was a terrible year. But what had come out of it was like, well, fuck it. I am determined to make a name for myself in audio because I believe it's the future. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I jumped in November 2018, just determined to make a podcast. And I've loved it. Here we are, like 117 episodes as of Friday.
Congratulations.
Right? You could see suddenly it's 2.5 years later, Jaloid, and you're like, oh my God, like that is a testament to showing up every week for something that you create.
Absolutely.
Which is so great. And the podcast saved me. It's taken place of comedy for me. I don't have any, I personally don't have any desire when the world opens back up to return to comedy.
Gotcha.
The quarantine was the nail in the coffin for me.
Absolutely.
I've been able to be a creator the entirety of the pandemic because of audio.
I commend you on that. So tell me about what it is that you really kind of try to deal with as far as the podcast is concerned? What are you guys kind of talking about specifically as far as hospitality, and what do you try to focus on as far as gathering out of every episode?
It's really developed into, we now really love to learn history and why traditions are the way they are. There's usually some dumb as fuck story behind why restaurants are the way they are these days. But then we also do funny headlines related to food or service industry, because we love the news. Love giving a hot take. And at this point, our listeners, we just get so much mail. They send in their horror stories from the job or a happy story or whatever. So we're like buried in emails reading these amazing stories. So what's really cool is we worked really hard to get to the point of where the listeners are enough so that they help write the show in some ways, because they're sending us content that, how can we experience it? You work at we really cater to all people who do service industry, retail. We have people write in from gas stations in the middle of nowhere in Texas who are like, so at my gas station job, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And you're like, this is wild. Like, this blows my mind to picture someone in this little dusty town working at a gas station, listening to us and relating to us.
That's awesome.
It's like the happiest I've ever been.
Brooke, I wanted to ask you, and I asked everybody, the show is called Prayer, Water, and Cocoa Butter, and that's just kind of like a little quip on, kind of things that I came up on being a country ass Southern person, in the way that I was raised. I admire your resilience and, ability to just kind of remain steadfast, doing something this consistently now. You're an entrepreneur yourself. You're helping out other entrepreneurs. You're doing different things, still writing. What is it for you that has allowed you to maintain that type of mindset?
Tequila.
Right.
That wasn't a fake answer, but
right.
I'm like, it's been a year in captivity.
Right.
The thing is just like, I love being creative, and making money from being creative is just the best thing in the world.
No better feeling.
There's no better feeling. It's what I really love. And my goal, although it's like pivoted, and who hasn't had to pivot in the last year?
Absolutely.
If not the past few years, but like, I always wanted to be in a place of power where I could then hire people who needed their first break. And Andrea and I like being bosses. We do.
No, I can tell. Like, what do you want people to kind of say about, if you could be a fly on the wall at your funeral, what would you want people to be saying about you?
I mean this in my entertainment, and also loving hospitality. I want people to be like, she made me feel seen. She made me feel welcome.
Yeah.
She made me feel understood.
Yes. You do a great job at that.
Something like that. I feel like that's been the greatest gift of joining comedy with a purpose. I've just never liked to do comedy for the comedy's sake. And so to be connecting with a bunch of really young, little wet behind the ear server listeners who literally need, like, we're looked at like big sisters. It's really cool. Like the smart, cool older sister who's giving good life advice. And that, so I really like that we're helping people out and making them feel less alone in this bizarre industry.
Exactly. And world.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre industry and world, because the fact of the matter is, it's not just servers and people in the hospitality industry that listen to your podcast.
Oh no, it's nice. We teach people how to be better customers too.
No, that's a big part of it. I heard some of that. That's a big part of it. You guys touch on a lot of different things. Brooke, where can people find you if they want to kind of check out you, some of the different things that you got going on?
At Brooke VP on Instagram. That's just my personal stuff. At Sidework Podcast. And at One Star Podcast Network.
Yeah. And I truly, truly appreciate your time.
Yes, I appreciate you as a friend.
Yes, man. Absolutely. I'm here for you, and can't wait to do your podcast again. And I appreciate you so much. You were a great guest, and I wish you the best as this year continues on. So I know I'll be seeing you soon. So Brooke, thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. Bye, Julie.
All right.
Look what it do, just telling the truth. Yo, mama getting jiggy, we raising the roof. Do my little dance, get paid in advance. I'm a cheap bastard, but splurging the booth. Look what it do. 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 Hey, hey.
Look what it do, look baby, who knew? We're like a dog watching dreams come true. Raising at Houston, Cadillacs cruising, South riding red in the North Candy blue. Baby, I'm blessed, no sneeze, a high shoe. Been dating a little Asian, bro, her haiku. I like them thick, but I'm more concerned if you loyal, cause you need your heart to be true. Not a Boy Scout, but staying prepared, not a piece of meat. Have some respect when you stare. Do what I do, keep everything moving. They want an electric all up in my chair. I'm off the chain with no leash. Top 5, and that's just at least. Could've told, but no, I'll never speak. Groundhog Flow got this bitch on repeat. Look what it do, just telling the truth. Yo mama getting jiggy, we racing the roof. Do my little dance, get paid in advance. I'm a cheap bastard, but splurging the booth. Look what it do. 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 No ma'am, I don't sip codeine, but this kush so call it bedtime. Had epiphany that it was in me the whole time. Ain't here to flex it all, man. Little shit, look, let me quit. This what it do, but you already knew. Hot as a Cheeto and cold as the flu. She digging your boy. She fucking with you. Researching myself. Can't trust all the news. This slapping like violence. I need me a rider. Ain't in the withdrawals. I'm making deposits. You do what you can and I do what I wish. This ain't no luck, look, I'm blessing a bitch. Fuck your little money, my family, they love me. My health doing better, I'm already rich. Work for yourself, don't dig your own ditch. No time for doubts, gotta know that you it. This what we doing, this magic we brewing. Look what it do, just telling the truth. Yo mama getting jiggy, we raising the roof. Do my little dance, get paid in advance. I'm a cheap bastard, but splurging the booth. Look what it do.